Okay, so quick update on the 205 rally. As you can see, the weather's on the turn and I'm not keeping this thing outside anymore, so it's going into storage. I used to be able to keep it in the garage, but that's full now, so in the past I've used this outdoor storage system called CarCoon, and I'll show you all how that works in a bit. So there are two main parts to the storage system. The first is the base, and this is what you position first, like I've done here, and then you have to drive the car onto it. It has a zip which ties to the other piece, and well, that's what makes it airtight. So once you've put the bottom of the storage system down, you just have to align the car up so it sits between the lines. You have the blue for the base and the grey for the side. So now that's down, you can put the second piece on. So the first electronic step is to fit this adapter to the negative and positive terminals of the battery. So depending on what your batteries are, it might be a hoop. In this case it's a bit small, so probably better off with the screw rather than the bolt. Okay, so I've just squeezed it between the terminal. Should be good enough for this. And now just connect the positive terminal up. This one's got a way wider ring, so it just slips on like it should and bolts straight up. Can't remember what size this nut is. And now you take this cable, which is going to plug into that, and you thread it through the little window you get at the end of the thing. You thread it through here. And now simply just connect the two up. If we can do this one-handed. Okay. And that's on. So as you can see, it's just like a big car cover, so start on top of the roof and then work the way down until it lines up with the zips. So now it's looking like this. You find the front corner where you've got the excess zips, and this is where the zipper starts, and then you just go all the way around. So now you go and flip the skirt over the zip so the zip's not exposed all the way around like this. So that was the battery side of things, so this is this wire, and then the second wire is what actually inflates the CarCoon system. So I'll just plug that in to show you where you plug that in now, and I'll tell you a reason why you have both these plugs for the battery and for the inflation. So the inflation plug simply goes to one of these filters. They're both connected, but one of them has a power input. Maybe you can put it on both, but as you can see there, can you see that? There's a plug. So you just plug this to that, and now this whole thing just needs power and you're good to go. The one thing I'll show you is these are the controls you get. So when you first put the car in from new, well, for the first time you're storing it, you need to have this fully open. Basically it vents out any of the moisture and dampness. So you keep that on for an hour or so, I can't remember how long, and then once you're dry, you zip it up for fully storage mode. As I said before, that's where the connection for the battery is. You can see I've got a bit of string because this tends to come loose in the wind, and you want this tight as possible, not to let the air in. So let's try and inflate it. So we have power all around. Let's plug it in. Okay, so it took a bit longer than I remember, but as you can see it's fully up now. It's a bit creased because it's been in storage for a while, like it's been folded, but and it never looks as good as it does on the company website. So there you go, that's the company. As you can see, it is literally a cocoon for the car. You can feel the air, a bit like a bouncy castle, but imagine if you park the car inside the bouncy castle. And it basically has its own air supply now that's filtered, so you don't have damp air coming in. See, if you can just put these things under car covers and seal them, but if there's no control of the air, then the humid air just even causes the car to rust even worse than if it was outside. So pretty happy with that. Just got to sort out something for the power now, because when it rains that'll be no good. I have done a few repairs to it, because when I used it last time, it does take quite a bit of a battering where I live here, or where I keep my cars. I think we're about 200 metres above sea level, and the wind, snow, rain all hits it here. It's pretty exposed, it's how high up it is, but it worked last time for the 205, and I'm really happy with it, so I'm going to keep it over here in winter really. So I thought I'd just wrap up on the pros and cons of the CarCoon system. I've had the system for about 3 years now, and I used it on I think 1 or 2 winters. It is obviously preferable if you have a garage, just use a garage, but I don't here because it's taken up by other stuff. So in terms of cost, it's a lot cheaper than building yourself a new garage. I think mine was about £500. It's not the biggest CarCoon you can get, and it's not the smallest, because the 205 is not actually that quite long of a car. I think it's about 4 metres long. In terms of what CarCoon systems you can actually get, it has to be the outdoor one, so that's why it's not clear. You can get a nice indoor one, which I've seen people use, and they work very well. But that's more if you've got something like a Ferrari or something, that you're worried that your garage isn't even humidified or isn't dehumidified enough. And the indoor ones come with like a frame, so I'd say that's the only major downside to mine. It doesn't have a frame to keep it taut, so the wind sort of blows it a bit, but otherwise than that it's perfect. Drawback to the outdoor CarCoon system that I have is the flexibility of getting a car in and out of it. So as I said earlier, the indoor systems have a nice frame, which means you can drive the car into the bubble, do a little zip, and it's good to go. So quite useful if you need to use the car regularly. My system, like I showed on the video, it's more like putting a car cover on the car. It's quite a faff, so, but because I'm not using the car regularly, like, it's going to be like that for 6 months or so. I don't mind having to go through all that, but if you wanted to use it more regularly, you could, but you'd probably have to buy one with a frame. I think there's a company that makes them called Air Chambers, same as CarCoon I think, but I'm not sure if there's anyone that does an outdoor frame, because they obviously bend and stuff, but I'm sure there'll be something you could get. So I've talked about the pros and cons, but actually, as I said earlier, I was going to tell you how it works. So you get an extension lead from your house. This powers the CarCoon block that I showed you, or the adapter even. This adapter then has 2 outputs. The first being the plug that goes straight into the filtration fans. There are two of them. They're what filters the air that comes in, and they also provide the air to lift it and provide the cocoon. These work very well, and they don't use much power. I think the average cost if you ran the whole thing for a year is something like £12, so it's absolutely nothing. And the point about the battery lead, this is the second output, which is quite clever. So the CarCoon block system, it obviously powers the cocoon to keep it afloat, but it also powers the battery, so it keeps your battery charged. And obviously this is good for when you want to start the car. And another benefit is if you lose main power supply, say from the house, say there's an electricity shortage or someone knocks the cable, the CarCoon for so many hours or days, I can't remember, will feed off your car battery. So the CarCoon has a fail-safe system, so it's never down unless you have a really crappy battery. But yeah, really happy with it. Like I said, I'd recommend it if you have no other alternative than a garage and you really care about your car not getting rusty and being exposed to the elements. It is nice having it in a bubble.